Welcome back to another episode of Through the Roof, a consumer-focused podcast where we talk about all things residential metal roofing. I'm your host, Mason Burchett, here with my co-host, Adam Clark.
What's up, Mason?
What's up,
How you
man?
doing?
How you doing?
Good.
Just hanging out in my new Snapz hat that my guy Manny Glegg hooked
Manny's
me
the
up
best.
with. Is this not awesome? Look at his hat. Shout out to Snapz. Check out Snapz at truemetalsupply.com/shop. We got those bad boys on there.
Yeah, in stock.
Yep, in
So,
stock. So
If you're working on a standing seam project, come check us out, and we'll give you the hookup.
I won't give you this hat though. This is my hat.
But if you buy enough of them, we'll give you the hat.
we'll find a hat. So we got a cool episode lined up. This is something that a lot of people in the industry are talking about now, and it's something that needs to continue being talked about, and that's some myths surrounding metal roofing.
Yeah, we'll do a multi-episode review of some of the myths that are most prevalent in the metal roofing industry. And today we're going to start by talking maybe about the most important one to most homeowners is the misconception or the myth that metal roofing is very expensive, especially when compared to traditional asphalt systems out there. So, Mason, you've been in this industry for a while, and you've had to help a number of customers overcome the perception that metal roofing is much more expensive. What are some of the items that you bring up to help clarify how similar metal roofing and asphalt shingles really are in terms of cost?
Well, one of the first things that I usually talk about is the different styles of metal roofing. Because a lot of people are when they think of metal roofing, they only think of big commercial projects, or they only think of high-end standing seam projects or something like that. And so the first thing is really to talk to them about, hey, there are actually several different styles, and some of them are as cost-effective as traditional asphalt shingles are, one of those being like our Tough Rip panel. I mean, we're champions of the through fasten and metal roofing system. We think it's a great residential system when it's installed properly and the right parts and pieces are used. And so talking to consumers about that kind of metal roofing system that really can bring the same value as higher end metal roofing systems at a lower cost is one of the first steps I take.
Yeah, and if you go out and you look at your local communities or your residential homes, if you see a home that has metal roofing on it, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be the Tough Rib panel, right? And if it's a system that didn't work, it wouldn't be so popular. And if it was a system that didn't offer great longevity and didn't have a track record of proving value, then the industry would not be growing the way that it's growing now. And so we're seeing this growing demand in metal roofing as there's more confidence with the product, as more people are being educated that it is a system that is not just for barns anymore. It's actually a system that is for residential application. We're seeing that this increased demand is doing a number of things. One thing that it's doing is it's creating these economies of scales really for every part of the supply chain. You have mills that are producing light gauge residential coils in higher capacity. You have coating facilities that are coating more, and they're becoming more efficient in their coating practices. And then for us in the manufacturing and the distribution end, our machines are running more consistently throughout the day. And, every minute the machine is not running, it makes the other parts that are made when it is running more expensive. Economies of scales gives us these operational efficiencies, allows us to pay off equipment more quickly and more effectively. So economies of scale is really one of the driving forces that has helped bring metal roofing down to be really cost competitive to more traditional roofing systems.
Yeah, that's right. And also the cost of materials. A lot of people fail to realize who was I was talking to? It was a guy on was it on TikTok or Instagram?
Yeah, TikTok.
Yeah, I posted something on there, and he was like, we got into a little bit of a back and forth on some facts about metal roofing, and I said he was talking about metal roofing is not good for the environment.
Oh, he's hating on metal roofing.
It's 100% recyclable, and I said it's actually way better for the environment than an asphalt roof. And he was like, he replied back and said, asphalt roof, who puts asphalt on the roof except in industrial applications? That's not even a good argument. And I was like, literally 75% of the country puts asphalt on the roof. So not a lot of people are actually considering, or even know what materials are on their roof. You know, this guy probably has asphalt on his roof and he doesn't even know it.
Right.
But you know, with the way that the economy is with certain, I mean, asphalt is an oil-based product, and those prices fluctuate as we see oil prices fluctuate. And we've actually seen steel prices coming down, you know, recently, which has made metal roofing even more affordable. And so material costs are something that obviously homeowners aren't totally familiar with if they're not in the industry, but plays a big factor into the cost of the roof.
Well, I think the complexity of the supply chain also plays a factor into that as well. You know, there is, I mean, nothing is easy. I mean, from a manufacturing standpoint, like making steel is not easy, rolling steel is not easy, but there are less steps in the process for us to get a coated coil. And so when we're talking about the number of steps that can be interrupted or disrupted, the steel supply chain is slightly less complicated than the asphalt supply chain. And we also have the benefit of having all domestic partners as well. So we're not having to deal with products that are stuck at the port, that are out on container ships. We really have been able to rely on a really consistent supply of materials, domestic materials, which has helped with some of the pricing that we've seen. We've also seen that, you know, our 29 gauge tough rib panels, they're about a quarter the weight of a traditional 30-year architectural shingle. Well, you start talking about freight. You know, if you get a quarter of the coverage with asphalt shingles as you get with a same truckload of metal, you're going to find that freight is going to affect asphalt shingles more than it affects steel roofing. So that's another item we can kind of associate to cost of materials. Another advantage that we're seeing, really in terms of what has been driving the cost of metal roofing down, is just increased competition. Again, maybe this is across every part of the supply chain, but we've seen mills become more competitive. We've seen coating facilities become more competitive. We've seen competition in the manufacturing and sales side of things become more competitive, and we've seen even installation become more competitive. And so when there's more people who are competing for the finite business, you'll see, you know, we always want to add value, and we don't want to always talk about cost, but the byproduct of increased competition is that the end user is typically going to experience some softening of pricing as companies are competing to win the business.
It's the free market, baby.
It's free market.
And yeah, you know, and as we see installers getting more and more comfortable actually installing these systems, we see them preferring it. I mean, I know many roofers that aren't hybrid anymore. Hey, we're not touching shingles, because they know they can get up there and sling panels that go from the ridge down to the eave. They're 3 feet wide. You're covering a huge amount of roof space in a little amount of time. When you get comfortable installing these metal roofing panels, they go up quick, and you know, you're just on to the next job. You're cranking them out.
Well, that's another thing that drives the total cost of metal roofing projects down, is that ease of installation does create this really fast, really efficient installation model where you might have 2 or 3 guys install an entire metal roof in 4 to 6 hours.
Right.
You know, and maybe you only have one day of sunshine that's coming up in the next week, and that's the project that you can focus on. And so you get these efficiencies of installation that also take the overall cost of an installed metal roofing project down.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so all of those things factor into what people should consider when they're thinking about what the cost of their roof is going to be. So where are we at?
Point D, long-term value.
Long-term value. Yeah, I don't know. You're going to have to take the lead on some of these points.
Yeah, no, I got it. So, you know, when we talk about the cost of something, a lot of times our minds associate that with the dollars spent. But the reality is the dollars we spend today do affect the dollars that we have to spend tomorrow or in the future. And so when we're talking about the overall cost of a metal roofing project, there may be some additional cost to waterproof a system or to vent a ridge, something that may seem relatively inconsequential when you're placing the order, but it is something that will play a big role down the road when you're trying to preserve the efficiency of your roofing system and the efficiency of your home. So metal roofing typically lasts 3 to 4 times longer than a traditional asphalt shingle. In fact, studies have shown that a 30-year architectural shingle, on average, only lasts 12 years before it needs to be replaced. And a metal roof, which has a 40-year warranty and often would last much longer than that, is going to vastly outlast the life of an asphalt shingle roof. And as we've experienced over the last year, especially when there's irresponsible spending and when there are factors in the economy that drive inflation up, well, you have to consider inflationary increases
Right.
over the next 12, 24, 36 years. And what's that going to look like? Yeah, maybe you might pay $6,000 for an asphalt shingle roof installed today, but in 12 years, if you have to do it again, it's about $8,500 for
Right.
nothing more. It's the same exact work, but inflation drives that cost up. When at the same time, 12 years from now, if you have a metal roof, you're spending $0, and then in another 12 years, you might be spending $12,000 for the same asphalt shingle roof installed. Again, no more material, no more labor. It's just what inflation does. And so when you look at the 30-year span or 36-year span of a metal roof versus a traditional asphalt shingle roof, you're looking to spend maybe $7,000 for a metal roof on year one, and then by year 30, you've already made a $27,000 investment in your asphalt shingle roof simply because you're having to replace and repair that entire time. And not to mention some of the other disadvantages of shingles is if you have a leak, it could damage parts of your home. It could damage your property. You might not even see a leak coming down the inside of your wall for, until mold starts to grow and become visible. And on the other side of that, with metal roofing, one of the things that, you have to consider is the energy efficiency
That's what I was
of metal roofing. And you'll have, Oak Ridge Laboratories, they've done some research and they said you can save up to 30% on your cooling costs with a high quality, efficient metal roofing system.
Yeah, it's not uncommon, especially in the South and the Southeast where it gets pretty hot, for homeowners to completely recoup the initial investment on their metal roofing.
No doubt.
Over a span of several years, just based off of the energy efficiency and the durability alone.
Yeah. So when we're talking about is metal roofing really that much more expensive? It's really not that much more expensive. It's very similar dollar for dollar when you compare the tough rib roofing system to a 30-year architectural shingle. Is it a little bit more? It may be. Again, if you have some of the components, the ridge vent systems and a few other items that are worth adding to the system to increase the longevity and effectiveness of the system. But
if you want your roof to actually work.
If you want it to actually do what it's supposed to do. But then if you're looking 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road, I mean, it really becomes very, very clear that the value significantly outweighs the cost if there is a cost difference in the start.
Right. Yeah. So is that myth busted?
I think it's busted.
It's busted. So on to myth number 2.
For the next episode.
Hello? Oh, is that a different episode?
Yeah.